Hi guys, welcome to Scarbeck Studio. Today I'm going to teach you how to sew this summer skirt. If you want to get the sewing pattern for the skirt, you can go to Scarbeck Studio on Etsy. That's where you will find it. And if you want to know how I made this pattern, then go to previous video. That's where I show you behind the scenes so you can learn a little bit. So the difference between this skirt and a typical skirt, bubble hem skirt that you probably saw online tutorials and patterns is that this skirt has shaped waistband, which is lower than your waist. So it's going to be a completely different design. So it's going to hang lower than your belly button, but you can decide how low you want it to be. If you want to make it low waist, just make a bigger size. Obviously with this skirt, you have a choice. You have a choice to make it just as it is. You have a choice to add pockets. And today I'm going to show you how to add pockets, but of course I'm going to walk you through how to not add pockets if you don't want to. And you will also have an option to make it a bubble hem. This is what I'm going to do today. But again, if you don't want to do bubble hem, then you don't have to. So you basically have few patterns in one. I'm going to show you how to insert the zipper and how to trim it. That's what you're going to learn this video. And I'm going to also show you how to insert lining and do bubble hem. You're going to learn a lot. So without further ado, let's start the tutorial. Also, a little spoiler alert, I bought a little bit too much fabric for a reason, and I'm going to show you how to make a matching top in a few days. The video will be available. Free pattern for everybody if you're a beginner, and you'll love it. So definitely stay tuned for that. It's coming in a few days, I promise. You're not gonna wait a month, so just FYI. Okay, so the first thing that you have to do that is really important is to prepare your fabric for sewing. To do this, you need to pre-wash your fabric, then air dry it and press it to smooth out any visible wrinkles. All right, now is the time to cut out the pattern. I like to place my pattern on the left side of the fabric. Here's my front piece. It needs to be cut on fold, so remember about that. And this is the back. I do have 2 layers of fabric underneath. It's just a little bit faster to cut it this way. The same thing goes for waistband and lining. Front is cut on fold and the back is not. It actually helps to cut small notches where indicated on the pattern for future reference, so that's what I'm doing here. Also, the waistband facing has to be interfaced with fusible interfacing, so make sure that you do that because I don't really want my waistband to change shape later. It is actually quite important, so make sure that you do that. And on top of that, you need to interface a zipper opening. I'm going to show it to you later. When you have everything ready, here are some things to take into consideration. Small notches that need to be cut within seam allowance on the front and back pattern. Mark center front notch as well as 2 notches on the pocket opening. Interface zipper opening on the left side of the fabric in the back and interface waistband facing also on the left side of the fabric. I'm going to show you now how to attach the pockets. You have to always first match the notches that are on the side and then on the pocket. Then place them right sides facing each other. Repeat for all sides. I like to make sure that the pockets in the front and back align perfectly. Sew a straight stitch 3 mm away from the seam line. Then flip it to the right side and sew a straight stitch 1 mm from the edge on the right side of the pocket. This is called understitching. Press your pocket on the right side and then take it back to the sewing machine and understitch it 1 mm away from the seam line. Place the front and back skirt right sides together, aligning the pockets, and then pin in place. Sew a straight stitch in the seam line. Press the pocket and side seam flat. Then, notch only the back seam allowance above and below the pocket to help it lay flat. Here I notched both front and back by accident, but it is still fine. Press the seam allowance open, then flip it to the right side and press again towards the front skirt. Join the waistband at the side seam, right sides together, and then sew a straight stitch in the seam line. Then press the seam allowance flat and open and repeat the same thing for facing. Now it's time to gather the skirt at the waist. To do this, you need to change the stitch length to the longest your machine allows. For me, it's 5. You need to work on the right side of the fabric, and then sew 2 parallel rows of gathering stitches within the seam allowance, just a touch above the seam line. Make sure to leave a long tail of thread at the beginning and the end of your stitch, and also please do not backstitch. I personally like to sew those gathering stitches in quarters, which means I do this from center front to side seam, from side seam to center back, etc. And I do it this way because it is easier for me to gather it later. Start gathering your skirt now before you attach it to the waistband. Then identify your side seams, your center front notch and center back notches, and match them to your skirt. Then you have to spread the gathers evenly. It is quite time consuming, but it is very easy to do. When you're done with it, sew a straight stitch at the waist, attaching both sides together. Now you have to pin facing to the waistband, right sides together. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is sew a straight stitch right here, attaching facing to the waistband. And my seam allowance is 1 centimeter. Yours will be bigger, I believe. I believe it will be 1.5. So just follow the instructions on your manual. And after that, what I'm going to do is show you how to understitch the facing. And then I'm going to show you how to attach an invisible zipper. And if you don't want to make a skirt with a bubbled hem, then your skirt is basically almost done. I like to press my seam allowance flat and then press it open. Then you have to press the seam allowance towards the facing and understitch it on the right side of the facing. It is very, very close to the seam line. Let's attach the zipper. Place your invisible zipper face down on the center back of the pattern. You can check your sewing pattern to see where exactly to place the zipper's bottom stop. Coils have to be in the seam line, then start pinning the zipper exactly the same way as I am doing it here. Then twist the zipper twice and pin on the other side. I'm going to stitch the zipper tape with my sewing machine, but if you want, you can do it by hand. It is just to keep the zipper in place. Change your sewing foot to invisible zipper one. I have the industrial machine, so this is what you'll see me use. Place your needle very close to the coils and start stitching the zipper. If you need to go very slow, make sure not to sew over the coils. If everything looks good, replace the invisible zipper foot with a standard presser foot and sew the center back together. So place center back to center back, right sides together, and sew the rest of the seam. If you need to shorten the zipper, trim the unattached part, leaving about 5 centimeters of it hanging. Then cut away some zipper tape. Place the tape sideways in front and behind the zipper and sew a stitch back and forth through the coils, attaching the tapes together. Then fold the tapes, closing the seam, and stitch it again. I also trimmed the tape on the sides. Center the unattached part of the zipper along the seam line and sew lower portion of the zipper tape and seam allowance together to secure it in place. Now it's time for lining, which you don't have to use if you're not making a bubble hem. The first thing that you have to do is place front and back right sides together and attach it at the side seams. And sew a straight stitch in the seam line. And as always, you have to press the seam allowance flat and open. To attach lining to facing, place them right sides together. Make sure to match all of the notches first and then spread the lining evenly around the waistband and sew a straight stitch attaching both sides together. Fold the waistband and facing right sides together. Seam allowance has to be moved towards the facing and pin it all the way from the waistband to the zipper's bottom stop. Basically, lining and zipper will be facing right sides together as well. Sew a straight stitch close to the zipper coils. Turn the skirt right side out. Lining should be nicely attached to the zipper tape. Now you have to position lining right sides together and sew the remaining center back seam from below the zipper to the hem. It's time to gather the hem of the skirt, and basically you have to do it exactly the same way you gathered the waist earlier. So I'm not going to repeat the whole process again. Alright, so to attach the hem to lining, you need to turn the skirt right side out with lining inside, exactly the same way as it would be worn. Grab the center front of lining and skirt and place them right sides together, so the rest of the skirt will be sandwiched in between, just kind of like a taco. Start pinning hem to lining at the center front, then move to side seams, then to the back, and afterwards spread the gathers evenly. Make sure to leave a little opening so we can turn the skirt to the right side. If you want to give up right now, don't. You're almost at the end of it, and just sew a straight stitch, leave a little opening, and then we're going to turn the skirt to the right side. It's really easy. It takes a lot of time, but it's going to look fabulous. As you can see, I left a little opening, so what I'm going to do right now is put my hand through that opening and pull the skirt to the right side. It is very self-explanatory, it takes a little bit of time, but it is not that hard. Okay, the skirt is basically ready, and now the only thing that I have to do is close that opening. To hand stitch the opening, place your needle inside the fold and bring it out. Then take your needle across to the other side and push your needle through the fold for about ½ centimeter. Then go back across and repeat the same thing you just did for about ½ centimeter, and then that is basically how you hand stitch the opening. It is not as difficult, and it is going to be invisible on the right side of the fabric, which is amazing. This is what we want. Alright, we're almost at the end of the tutorial. Please let me know if you enjoyed this video. Like, comment, subscribe. This really helps my channel. So thank you if you already did. And if you want to get this pattern, you can go to Skarbek Studio on Etsy. Everything is linked down below. So I will see you guys in the next video. And in the meantime, happy sewing!